There was a specific Tuesday in March when everything changed, and I didn't even know it until my phone buzzed at 11:47 at night. I was already in bed. I had work the next morning, an early shift at the dental office where I'd been working as a hygienist for 3 years. I was tired in that specific way. You get tired when you've been tired for too long, not just physically, but somewhere deeper. I saw my twin sister's name on the screen, and I almost let it go to voicemail. We'd talked that afternoon. What could she possibly need? I picked up. She didn't say hello. She didn't say anything for a few seconds, and then I heard it. That small, broken sound she makes when she's trying not to cry. I'd heard it exactly 3 times in our lives before that night. Once when our dad died. Once when her first serious boyfriend cheated on her. Once when she lost her baby at 14 weeks. I sat up straight. Lily. That's what I said, just her name. Like a question and an answer at the same time. I need you to come, she said. I'm still at the shop. It was almost midnight. Her flower shop closed at 6. I was in my car in 4 minutes. Lily and I are identical. I mean truly identical. The kind where our own mother used to hold our wrists to check for the small scar Lily had from a fall off a bike when we were 7, just to make sure she was talking to the right one. We grew up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. We moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, together after college, chasing something neither of us could exactly name. She opened her flower shop, a small, beautiful place she called Bramble and Bloom, about 2 years before all of this happened. I got my hygienist certification and started working at a practice 3 miles from her shop. We had dinner together at least twice a week. We were, in the way that twins sometimes are, each other's most reliable thing. She had been married for 14 months. His name was Connor, 39 years old, a project manager for a commercial construction company. Nice enough, I thought, when she first brought him around. A little quiet, a little hard to read. But he made her laugh, and he looked at her like she was something worth looking at, so I kept my reservations to myself. Connor had a daughter from his first marriage, 17 years old. Her name was Sienna, and she had lived with her mother in Raleigh for most of her life, only visiting Connor on school breaks and occasional weekends. When Lily and Connor got married, that arrangement was supposed to stay the same. Sienna would visit. Sienna would eventually, hopefully, warm up to Lily. Things would find their level. They did not find their level. Lily was sitting on the floor of her back workroom when I got there. The front of the shop was dark but unlocked. I let myself in with the spare key I'd had for 2 years, and I found her between the work table and the big standing cooler, her knees pulled to her chest, her left eye swollen nearly shut. I dropped down next to her without saying a word. Up close it was worse. Her lip was split. There was a bruise spreading along her cheekbone that I knew from the color would look even uglier in the morning. Her hands, when I reached for them, were shaking. "Tell me," I said. She told me. Sienna had shown up at the shop around 5:30. Connor was traveling, a job site in Greensboro, and apparently Sienna had driven up from Raleigh without telling anyone. Just appeared at Bramble and Bloom 20 minutes before closing. Lily said she'd seemed agitated from the start, pacing. Looking at things without seeing them, Lily asked if everything was okay, if she needed to call Connor. That was when Sienna told her. She didn't want Connor to marry Lily. She'd never wanted it. She told her mother that Lily was trying to replace her, that Lily was always angling for her father's attention, that Lily had stolen her dad. None of this was true. Lily had bent over backward to give Sienna space, to not push, to let things develop naturally. But none of that mattered to Sienna. In Sienna's version of events, Lily was the villain. The argument escalated. Sienna said things that made Lily flinch even retelling them. And then, and even as my sister said it, I could feel something cold settling in my chest. Sienna shoved her, hard, into the edge of the work table. Lily went down. She hit the concrete floor, and Sienna stood over her and said, "Stay away from my dad," and then walked out. Lily had been sitting on that floor for 5.5 hours. "Why didn't you call me sooner?" I asked. My voice came out quieter than I expected. She looked at her hands. "I didn't know what to say." "You didn't know what to say to me?" "I didn't know what to say to anyone," she said. "Because if I say it out loud, then I have to figure out what happens next." and I don't know what happens next. She's his daughter, Megan. That's me, Megan. Lily's twin, the one who does not sit on the floor. Okay, I said. First, we're going to get you some ice, and then you're going to tell me everything again from the beginning. I took her home. Her home, the house she shared with Connor. I made her eat something. I put ice on her face and made her take ibuprofen, and I sat with her until 2 in the morning while she talked and I listened. Connor called at 9:30 that night and she answered and said everything was fine. She sounded completely normal. I watched her do it. Her voice didn't waver once. After she hung up, I asked her why she hadn't told him. Because I don't know how he'll react, she said. And I'm not ready for whatever that is. I understood. I didn't like it, but I understood. What I did not understand, what kept me awake on her couch that night staring at the ceiling, was the image of Sienna standing over my sister on that floor. 17 years old. A girl I'd met twice, both times politely, both times with a handshake and a guarded smile. A girl who had apparently decided that my sister's existence was a threat that needed to be handled physically. The more I thought about it, the less patient I became. Sienna was supposed to spend spring break with Connor. That was the arrangement. 1 week, starting the following Saturday. Connor was flying back from Greensboro on Friday night. Lily had been dreading it for weeks, even before what happened. Now, 3 days after the incident in the shop, she was talking about going to her friend Dana's place upstate for the week, just to avoid it entirely. You'd lead your own house, I said. We were at her kitchen table. I was drinking coffee. She was holding hers without drinking it. It's easier, she said. Lily. She shoved you into a work table. She split your lip. You're still bruised? I watched her face. You're not going to Dana's. Then what am I supposed to do, Megan? She's his daughter. I looked at her for a long moment. I know what I am, Lily said. I'm the stepmother. I'm the person who came after. I'm the one who's supposed to be understanding and patient and flexible. I know my role. That's not your role, you're his wife. Same thing. It is absolutely not the same thing. She looked at the window. Outside, the neighbor's dog was barking at something in the yard. Ordinary Tuesday afternoon sounds. The world completely unaware of what was happening at this table. Let me come instead, I said. She turned back to me. What? Connor's never actually spent that much time with me. He knows I exist. He knows the basics, but we've never been close, right? He couldn't pick my voice out of a lineup. He's only seen us together a handful of times. She stared at me. Megan. Sienna thinks she scared you. She thinks you're going to be walking on eggshells around her. Let me be there instead. Let me see what she actually does when she thinks she can get away with it. That's insane, is it? You said she's going to be at the house most of the week. Connor's going to be home, but he goes into the office every day. It would mostly be you, supposedly you, and her. And what happens when she does something and you react like you and not like me? Then we find out who she really is, I said. And we have evidence. There was a long silence. I'm not hiding, Lily said finally. I'm not going to Dana's. I'll be at the shop. She paused. But I want cameras in the house before Saturday. I looked at her. I can set those up Thursday, I said. I want to be honest about something. I went into that week with a plan, but plans and reality are two different things, and what actually happened was more complicated and more clarifying than anything I'd anticipated. Connor came home Friday night. I'm Robert Sinclair, 67 years old, and I'm Robert Sinclair, 67 years old, and not road tired. Tired in the way people look when they've been carrying something they haven't talked about yet. He hugged me, hugged Lily, in his mind, and asked how the shop was, and I said fine, and we made dinner together. And he talked about the Greensboro project, and I listened and nodded in the right places, and the whole time I was thinking, he doesn't know. She never told him. And I didn't know yet whether that made him the problem or the casualty. Sienna arrived Saturday morning. She was prettier than I remembered. She had Connor's eyes and something harder in her jaw. Her mother's, maybe, I didn't know the woman. And she walked into that house like she owned the square footage. Not rude exactly, just certain. The kind of certain that comes from never having been held accountable for very much. She hugged her father for a long time. She barely looked at me. Hey, she said in my direction. Hey, I said back. I smiled the way Lily smiles, a little softer than I do, a little more patient. She went to her room. That first day was quiet, almost boring. Connor made his famous chicken pasta, his words, famous, though honestly it was fine, and the three of us ate dinner and Sienna talked about her junior year and a friend of hers who'd made the state swim team and a beach trip she wanted to do in the summer. She was almost charming. I watched her carefully and I thought, she knows where the line is. She knows how to perform. Sunday Connor went into the office for a few hours. Paperwork, he said, apologetic. Just a couple hours, I'll be back by lunch. I said that was fine. And then it was just Sienna and me. She came into the kitchen while I was making a grocery list. She stood at the counter across from me and poured herself coffee, Connor's coffee. She'd apparently decided it was now her coffee too. And she watched me. He's gone, she said. He'll be back by noon. She nodded slowly. Drink her coffee. You look tired, she said. I slept fine. She leaned against the counter. You know, I've been thinking about something. I've been thinking about how you've been handling this whole situation with me, with our family. I set down my pen. It seems like you've decided to just tolerate me, she said. Like I'm a thing that exists that you have to manage. And I want you to know that I see that. I looked at her. Let the silence sit. You think I'm the problem, she said. Don't you? I think I said carefully that you're 17 and you're going through something really hard, and I think sometimes when things are hard, people do things they wouldn't otherwise do. Something shifted in her face. Just slightly. Did you tell him? She said. Tell him what? About the shop. Her jaw tightened. What happened at the shop? And there it was. Not yet, I said. Still careful. Still quiet. You should keep it that way, she said. Her voice had changed. Whatever the performing version was, this was the real one. Flat. Sure of itself. Because if you say something, I'll just say you're exaggerating. I'll say you came at me first. He'll believe me. I'm his daughter. I held her gaze. Is that right? You're just the woman he married. I've known him my whole life. She picked up her coffee mug. So, yeah, I'd keep it that way. She left the kitchen. I let out a slow breath, and I looked directly at the small camera I had placed on the shelf above the refrigerator, between the ceramic rooster and the basket of onions on Thursday afternoon. I called Lily that afternoon while Sienna was in her room. She basically admitted it, I said, and then she threatened you. Told you not to say anything or she'd claim you attacked her first. Lily was quiet for a moment. She actually said that. On camera. Another silence. What do you want to do? I asked. I want Connor to see it, she said. I want him to see it, and I want to see his face when he does. Okay, I said. Then that's what we're doing. I need to tell you about Connor's face because it matters. He came home at 12:30. Sienna was still in her room. I, still as Lily, for a little while longer, asked him to sit down. I said there was something I needed to show him. I said it calmly and carefully, and he sat at the kitchen table with that same tired look, and I pulled up the footage on my laptop. He watched it in silence. When it was over, he didn't move for a long moment. He just looked at the screen. And then he looked at me, and something in his expression made me stop being Lily. I need to tell you something, I said. I'm not Lily. He stared at me. I'm Megan, her sister. She didn't feel safe being here this week, and we came up with a plan. I watched his face process this. I know that's a lot. I know this is a lot all at once, but what you just watched on that camera is real, and what happened at the shop 2 weeks ago is real, and your daughter stood in this kitchen this morning and told your wife to keep her mouth shut or she'd make her the villain. He put his elbows on the table. He put his face in his hands. I didn't know, he said. His voice was different now. About the shop, she didn't tell me. She was scared of how you'd react. She was scared of... He stopped, looked up. His eyes were red. She was scared of me. She was scared of me. She was scared of the situation. She loves you. She didn't want to put you in the middle. He shook his head slowly. He looked like a man who had just discovered a room in his house he didn't know was there, and what was inside it was not good. "Can I call her?" he said. "Yes," I said. "But first I need to talk to my daughter," he said. He stood up. He looked at me, really looked at me the way people look when they're deciding something. "Thank you," he said. "I know that's strange to say, but thank you." I went to the shop. Lily was there arranging peonies for a weekend wedding order. She always works when she's anxious, has since we were kids, and when I walked in, she looked at my face and knew. "He saw it," she said. "He saw it," she said. "He saw it." She set down the peonies. Her hands were steadier than they'd been in 2 weeks. "What did he say?" "He said he didn't know. About the shop. He looked," I tried to find the right word, "gutted." "He looked gutted, Lily." She nodded slowly. "He's talking to her now," I said. "Right now," I said. "Right now, at the house." She was quiet for a moment. "Do you think it'll actually change anything?" That was the real question, wasn't it? Not what happened, what comes next. "I think," I said carefully, "that he's a man who just watched footage of his daughter threaten his wife and then realized his wife was too scared to tell him about it directly. I think that probably changes something." She looked at the peonies. "I hope you're right. I'm usually right." She almost smiled. "You're really not. I'm right more than you." "You absolutely are not." And that was something, that we could still be us, even in the middle of this. Connor called Lily at 4 that afternoon. I was still at the shop, sitting on a stool in the back, and I watched my sister's face as she listened. He had talked to Sienna. It had not been a calm conversation. Sienna had, at first, tried exactly what she'd told Lily she would try, claimed it was exaggerated, claimed there was provocation. Then Connor told her there was footage, that he'd watched it, that he'd heard every word she said in that kitchen this morning. Sienna had cried, the real kind, not the performance kind. Connor told Lily he hadn't seen her cry like that since she was small. He'd told Sienna that she would be calling Lily to apologize, that she would be going to see a family therapist, not suggested, required, that she would not be welcome in their home again until that therapist said she was ready, and that if anything like what happened at the shop ever occurred again, he would not be protecting her from the consequences. Then he told Lily he was sorry, that he should have seen what was happening, that he'd been so focused on not wanting to force a relationship between them that he hadn't been paying attention to the dynamic that was actually developing. That he should have asked more questions, that he loved her and he was asking her to give him the chance to make this right. Lily was quiet through most of it. She said okay. She said she needed a few days. He said he understood. When she hung up, she stood holding the phone for a long moment, and then she set it down on the work table and pressed both palms flat against the surface, like she needed something solid under her hands. "Well," she said. "Well," I said. She looked up. Her eye was still faintly bruised, greenish-yellow now, fading. She looked like herself again, tired but present. "She hasn't called yet," Lily said, "to apologize. It's only been an hour." "I know." She paused. "I'm not sure what I'll say when she does." "You don't have to say anything perfect," I said. "You're allowed to just accept it and figure out the rest as you go." She was quiet. "Lily, she's 17. She did something genuinely terrible and she needs consequences, and those are happening. But she's also 17. I know how old she is. You're the adult in the room. I know that too." She picked the peonies back up. "I hate it, but I know it." Sienna called 3 days later. On a Thursday evening, while Lily was closing up the shop, I wasn't there. Lily told me about it afterward, sitting at my kitchen table. My kitchen this time, my apartment, the one I'd had since we moved to Charlotte. With both hands around a mug of chamomile tea, Sienna had been crying before she said a word. Lily could tell from her breathing. She'd apologized. Not a short apology, a real one. The kind that takes time and stumbles and starts over and isn't polished. She said she knew what she did at the shop was wrong and that she didn't have an excuse. She said she'd been scared since her dad got remarried and that the fear had turned into anger and that she'd pointed the anger at the wrong person. She said she knew she needed help and that she was going to go to the therapist her dad had found. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She just said she was sorry. Lily had said, "I hear you, thank you for calling." That was all. "That's it?" I said. That's what felt right, she said. She doesn't get my forgiveness on her timeline. Maybe someday, but I'm not going to pretend this is finished just because she cried. I nodded. Is that bad? She asked. Does that make me— No, I said. It makes you someone who almost got seriously hurt and needs time. That's not bad. That's just true. She looked at her tea. Connor asked if I'd be willing to try the therapist too. The family therapist. All three of us. What did you say? I said I'd think about it. She looked up at me. I think I'm going to say yes. Not because I'm ready, because I'm willing to try to get ready, which I think is the best I can honestly promise right now. That's more than enough, I said. It's been 4 months since that week. Things are not wrapped up neatly. I want to be honest with you about that. Life is not a short film with a clean ending and a lesson printed across the screen. Lily and Connor are still together. They go to the therapist every other week, the two of them, working through what the past year has actually been, which is apparently more complicated than either of them admitted to themselves. Sienna has been to 3 sessions on her own. She has not been back to the house. Lily says she's not ready for that yet, and Connor is respecting it. The shop is doing well. Bramble and Bloom just landed a contract with a local hotel to provide arrangements for their lobby every week, a steady, reliable thing that Lily worked toward for 2 years. She told me about it on a Wednesday, called me from the shop at closing time, and she sounded like herself. The herself from before all of this. The one who calls me when something good happens and doesn't wait until it's already a crisis. I think about Sienna sometimes. I think about what it must be like to be 17 and so scared of losing your father that you turn your fear into something physical and aimed at someone who was only ever trying to give you room. I don't excuse it, but I understand it a little. In the way you can understand something without accepting it, I think about that Tuesday night in March when my phone buzzed and I almost let it go to voicemail. I think about my sister on the floor of her shop. I think about that camera, sitting between a ceramic rooster and a basket of onions, and how sometimes the best thing you can do for someone you love is simply pay attention when they can't afford to. Lily told me a few weeks ago that she'd spent a long time during all of this, feeling like she had to choose between being a good wife and protecting herself, like those were 2 separate options. They're not, I told her. I know that now, she said. You always knew it, I said. You were just scared. She thought about it. Yeah, she said. I think you're right. I let her have the last word on that one. She's earned it. I've thought a lot about what actually made any of this work. Not the camera, not the plan, not the fact that Lily and I are identical and can pass for each other in low light and in moments when someone isn't paying close enough attention. Those were just mechanics. What made it work was that Sienna believed she had already won. That's the thing about people who hurt others without consequence. They start to move through the world like consequence isn't real. Like the rules that apply to everyone else have some kind of exception built in just for them. Sienna walked into that kitchen on a Sunday morning and said what she said because she had calculated correctly that it had worked before. That Lily would stay quiet, that Connor would stay unaware. That the bruise would fade and the moment would pass and she would remain exactly where she was, which was untouchable. She wasn't wrong about the math. She was only wrong about who she was talking to. I think about that a lot. Not as a victory, exactly, but as a reminder of something I keep having to relearn. The truth doesn't disappear just because someone decides not to look at it. It sits there, patient. It waits. And eventually the right person looks in the right direction, and there it is, exactly as it always was. Lily spent 5.5 hours on the floor of her shop before she called me. I've asked her about that since, gently, and she said she wasn't sure she deserved to be upset. Like the fact that Sienna was Connor's daughter somehow transferred some of the fault onto her. Like she had to earn the right to her own pain. That broke my heart more than the bruises did. There's something I think we get quietly taught, especially women, especially in situations where we're the newcomer, the stepmother, the one who came second, that our job is to absorb, to be patient, to give more room than we're comfortable giving, and call it generosity. And sometimes that's the right instinct, but it becomes dangerous when we start to confuse absorbing with accepting, when we stop being able to tell the difference between choosing grace and being afraid to do anything else. Lily is one of the most genuinely patient people I know. That patience is real and it's beautiful, but patience isn't the same as silence, and silence isn't the same as safety. What I keep coming back to is this: the cameras didn't change what Sienna did. They didn't rewrite history. They just made it impossible for the truth to be argued away. And sometimes that's all it takes. Not more evidence, not a louder voice, just a record that exists somewhere that can't be revised. Connor is a decent man who wasn't paying attention. That's different from a man who doesn't care. And watching him process that footage, watching his face when he realized the distance between what he thought was happening in his home and what was actually happening, that wasn't satisfaction I felt. It was something sadder and more complicated. It looked like grief. The specific grief of discovering you missed something important while you were looking somewhere else. Sienna is 17. That matters. It doesn't excuse anything, but it matters. 17 is old enough to know that you don't put your hands on someone. It is also young enough that the reasons behind it, fear, insecurity, the terror of loving a parent and believing, wrongly, that love has a limited supply, are still workable. Still something a person can be guided through if they're willing to be guided. I don't know how the story ends for them. Not yet. I don't think it's finished. But Lily is arranging flowers for a hotel lobby every week now. She called me about it on a Wednesday evening, still at the shop. The kind of call she makes when something good happens and she doesn't want to sit with it alone. I think that's enough for right now. I think that's more than enough.